Thank you, Rolindis. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. And my name is Fonton Daniel. I am speaking here in this great state of Texas, and today is a wonderful day, and the weather looks bright and very beautiful environment. And today is Monday, and appreciate you tuning in. This is 12 o'clock afternoon, and uh, my name again is Fonton Daniel. It's been a wonderful day, wonderful weekend. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, and it's been a great opportunity coming to you today, and I hope everyone is having a blessed day as well. And here again is my name is Fonton Daniel. I am speaking from the great state of Texas, and I know there's a lot of issues that is going around, and I would like to talk to you guys about the ongoing crisis in the southern Cameroon territory. Before I proceed, I want to thank the President of the United States. I want to thank the Secretary of State, Tillerson. I want to thank U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations. I want to thank the U.S. Congress. I want to thank the U.S. Senate. And I want to thank the U.S. State Representative. I want to thank the Governor of Texas. And I know last days ago, we had a wonderful rally in Austin, Texas, the great state of Texas, the capital. I know many of you have watched those videos. It was a very wonderful meeting that we had to, although we didn't have the opportunity to meet because he wasn't in office, but we had a wonderful conversations with the member of the governor's office, and we look forward to work with the governor and other great members of this wonderful state and the U.S. federal government. I am speaking here about the ongoing crisis of the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, and I want to thank of you. If you happen to be tuning in, could you just indicate where you are? I am glad to know where you are. If you're here in the United States, could you indicate where you are in the United States? If you are in ground zero, just indicate that you're in ground zero, which is the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. If you are in La Republique, just indicate that you are in La Republique. And if you are in Europe, just indicate that you're in Europe. If you are in China, you are in Japan, you are in Russia, you are in Europe, wherever you are, and just indicate. And I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to tune in this afternoon. It's 12:21 Standard Time here in the United States. I am speaking about the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, and I also want to talk about the destruction that is currently going on in the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. And this destruction is currently and has been amazing how France is orchestrating the destruction of the Anglophone territory. And France has been the architects. While France maintained his country, and protect his country, but it's encouraging La République to carry on destruction of the Anglophone territory. And we are making it clear to France that Africa no longer an imaginary country. Africa is a sovereign country. Africa is a continent, and Africa is a continent that made up of several different countries. And those countries have emerged to become a sovereign nations. And therefore, France choose to become a business partner rather than member of the destructive force against the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. The Anglophone speaking, the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, and I know there is interim government officials that are currently held by the Nigerian government. While we work towards their release from the Nigerian government, and France and the French government are carrying on propaganda, false information to destructively destabilize and manipulative to carry on disgruntled behavior, and that is being performed by a French media called French Vanguard. If you are not familiar, then you must be familiar now that I call the name French Vanguard. It's a French media that is carrying on destructive informations, which I believe a French should have been a democratic country that promoting democracy in and around the world. While France enjoyed democracy in his own country, but it is the destructive force in African continent. And it began with Algeria, and it began with Ivory Coast, and it began with other several nations. While you have stewardship of Paul Biya in that regime that has been in power for the past 35 or 36 years today, because Paul Biya is a stewardship, an Anglophone territory will not be part of that stewardship. While France is a destructive force in the African continent, especially those within the sub-Sahara region, France has been the greatest destructive of African environment. And when France began this destructive force, it collided by carrying brutal regime, brutal system that has prompted many issues that is going on. I just want to give this brief summary about the destructive force of French. And this has continued to escalate within the sub-region of African continent. And it is very unbelievable. It is very, very unbelievable. It is very, very unbelievable. As I am here speaking, France has become a destructive force in the African continent. While France has become a destructive force, has created an animosity within the African region. And we are making this clear to the French that you can choose to become an economic bloc for the African continent, or you can choose to become a destructive force. Because as you choose to become a destructive force by using your media, by French Vanguard, and promulgating wrong informations. As a matter of fact, I am here speaking about specifically the French system, because the French system has reignited Africa to reinvigorate whether France should be part of Africa, because they have been the major destructive force. While Africa's development has been degraded to the worst stage, France has been the benefactor and carry on destructive of the African continent. As I'm speaking, the Anglophone speaking, the former British colonial territory, when the Anglophone became a sovereign nation, when the British colonized, or when the United Nations mandated that all those territories that were under the German colony should be re-prepared for a sovereign nations. And Southern Cameroon, which is the English speaking, has become the sovereign nation and was granted independence in 1961. And La Republique was not part of that independence. And I am bringing this to the fellow Americans because there is a continued destructive force that is carried on in the Anglophone territory by La Republique. And it is under the auspices of France initiating such a destructive force. As France began this destructive, and I am bringing this to the attention for fellow Americans because this information is often not led to the general public to understand the destructive force of the Anglophones. Anglophone speaking was a former British colonial territory. When the independence was granted by the United Nations in 1961, La Republique had their own independence that was granted in 1960. So these are two separate nations. La Republique was never a colonial territory of the Anglophone speaking territory. La Republique was another nation on its own and therefore has no legitimate power over the Anglophone speaking. While we have asked the United Nations has remained adamant rather than speak the truth, rather than present the exact document that prompt for the Anglophone sovereignty. The Anglophone, under the leadership of Secession and his cabinet, has proclaimed that the Anglophone speaking, the Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon, which is now called the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, is not longer the colonial territory of La Republique. And La Republique has no leadership, no control over this sovereignty of this national territory. As I speak, I am speaking because mothers, children, fathers, and properties are being caused damaging in this. The entire harvest, the harvesting season in the Anglophones is usually in August. And most of the food and the stable food in this Anglophone territory, especially in the Northwest, they have cocoyam and they have corn. And corn is the most stable food. And I am speaking the Banso, the people of the Banso. I am standing with the people of Banso. I am standing with the mother of this great people of Banso, because right now I'm speaking, the forces of destruction of La Republique has burned the entire community of this great people of Banso. Remember, the people of Banso is a very fundamental people in the entire Anglophone territory is concerned. The people of Banso, remember, there are several member of parliament or the head of the parliament or the speaker of parliament in La Republique. They have had series of them from the great village of Banso, from the great community of Banso. Many people has become the most wonderful. The current Cardinal Christian Toomey is from Banso. That can tell you who the people of Banso is. The people of Banso is a great community. It's a great people. It's a great people with a great pride. The first cardinal of the Catholic is from the people of Banso, and Cardinal Christian Toomey is from Banso. While the people harvest corn as the major staple food, the forces of evils of La Republique has continued to carry on destructive. And you can imagine, if you have been watching or pay attention on the videos that have been posted on my Facebook, or you've been watching the videos that are posted on my YouTube, or you have been watching the images that I have posted, is the destruction that is being carried on by La Republique against the Anglophone speaking territory. Imagine the mothers, their stable food that they have just harvested are being burned down and tear down the food, the stable food of the people of Great Banso, their basic food, corn, which is the basic stable food. And now they don't have anything to be able to determine in the next coming month or weeks before the planting season should begin. As I'm speaking here in the United States, in the great state of Texas, the people of Banso, their food, their corn have been destroyed by the evil force of La Republique, and yet we have a United Nations headquarters here in the United States. We have asked them that they should respect the 1961 that granted the sovereignty of the people of Anglophone sovereignty, and that the document should be released and sent to La Republique, because the continued destruction of basic food commodity in the people of Banso, where you have the first cardinal, the Catholic cardinal, because many people know the people of Banso. When mom, grandmother come and discover that their food has been destroyed, their home has been destroyed, the cement, that is what they use in building construction, has been destroyed by the evil force of La Republique. And yet the United Nations is physically here in the United States, and they are not taking close attention. They want all the entire destruction to be complete before the United Nations step in. Humans are evil, and therefore the United Nations need to step up and work faster and work promptly and respond to an aggressor against the evil force of La Republique. The people of Anglophone speaking, they are not a colonial territory. They are not like the dwellers. They are not littoral province. When littoral province decided to break away from La Republique, that is what they call a secession. When littoral decided to break from La Republique, that is what is called a secession. When the Central Province decided to break up from La Republique, that is called a secession. When the Grand Nord decided to break away from La Republique, that is called a secession. But when a sovereign nation that was granted independence in 1961 choose to leave La Republique because the forces of argument is not coincident. The Anglophone speaking believe in transparent democracy. They believe in an election where a transfer of power can be easily transferred from one elected official to the next. They believe in a government of accountability. That is the fundamentals that the Anglophone believe in. The government of accountability. A government that the people can be able to elect their representative and have their vote counted. And that is a form of government of the Anglophone speaking. That's the government that's shared by the Western society. And yet, when Anglophones decided that to be able to live with La République, they must have a federal structure. But yet, La République, within the past 56 years, they have never come to a table, a round table, to discuss the structure. And therefore, the Anglophone believe in a federal system of government. But because La République thinks the Anglophone speaking is a colonial territory, that it can be invigorate or it can be brutalized at the will, because they have the power of the machine guns. I am here to let you know that the time has come that the machine gun will no longer be valid. I am here to tell La République that the machine gun will no longer be valid, and that the sovereign people shall rise and be able to conquer the evil force of La République. Why we are asking United Nations here in the United States, here in the great state of New York, that the Anglophone speaking are now being massacred by the evil force of La République, and yet the United Nations headquarters is physically here in the land of the free, the land where liberty prevails, the land where justice is the basic fundamental principles of the democratic society. But yet the people are being marginalized, the people are being brutalized, and yet the document is found here in the United States. Imagine a mother. A mother goes and found his food stuff, basic food content has been destroyed. And they are shouting because they don't know whether in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks, in the next couple of months, in the next couple of months or several weeks to go, they don't know what they're gonna eat, because the evil force of La République has destroyed this basic food, burned the entire house, cut all the basic corn and taken out of the mother's home and destroyed this evil force of La République. And yet we have the United Nations head office here is paying no close attention, is keeping calm and say we are monitoring the situation. Are we monitoring the situation? Should the last person be destroyed, why are you still monitoring the situation? I am letting this to the people of America. I am letting this to the United States government. I am letting this to the United States, that as you sit and you fold your arm, the people are being destroyed. The people are being damaging, and that the evil force, there are 40,000 people that are registered with the United Nations Human Rights Commission. The people did not deserve to become a refugee. A home that belongs to them does not belong to La République. It's a territory that belongs to the Anglophone speaking. It does not belong to La République. The territory belongs to the Anglophone speaking. It does not belong to La République. It is the property. It is the people of the indigenous that own the property. Now they have 40,000 that have been registered by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees in Nigeria. I am here to tell the rest of the world that when United Nations fail to act on its duty, when United Nations ignore the reality, when United Nations fail to protect the individual, the duty of the United Nations was to maintain peace and security. But when United Nations deviate from those peace and security, because the United Nations being headed by an individual that lack the focus, that lack the moral attitude to stand against the evil force, because France is manipulating. France is manipulating the United Nations for its personal interest, while the sovereign people are struggling to make their life. Why France has its own property are being secure in France. Why the people are suffering. France, it is time you come as a business partner, not as a destructive force against the indigents of Africa. Africa is a sovereign country. Africa is a continent that deserves their own government. They deserve to decide what is efficient for them without you becoming the destabilizer, because democracy is the will for people to be able to govern themselves and choose who should be the leader, and not France dictating who has to be the leader of the sovereign nations. Because when 40,000 people are being pushed out of their home, they are now migrating to Nigeria on a territory that belongs to them, not belongs to La Republique. During the British administration, when the Anglophone, when the English speaking, they choose to leave Nigeria, the British administration did not fight against the Anglophone leaving Nigeria. The British administrator was residing in Nigeria during this era. But when the Anglophone speaking choose to leave Nigeria, the British did not intervene. The British respect the choice that the Anglophone choose to leave Nigeria. Why should France intervene when the Anglophone choose to leave La Republique? The Anglophone speaking is not a colonial territory of La Republique. The Anglophone speaking is a sovereign nation. They have the right to leave La Republique, because when La Republique got its independence in 1960, the Anglophone was not part of that document. When the Anglophone had their independence in 1961, La Republique was not part of that document. The fact that the Anglophone choose to leave, and France is using propaganda with its media to carry on disinformation, what the President of the United States called the fake news. When France uses media to propagate wrong information about the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, that is what the President of the United States called the fake news. The people of Ambazonia is a sovereign nation. I want to make this clear. Nigeria can keep Secession, but the Federal Republic of Ambazonian must stand still as a sovereign nation. La Republique has got nothing to do with the sovereignty of the Anglophone territory. The Anglophone territory, the people has risen. The people has taken its power. The people will stand and the people will defend the sovereignty of its Anglophone territory. And we have given this notice to those senior divisional officers, to those governors of La Republique, that we have asked you to vacate the territory of the Anglophone speaking. If you are a senior divisional officer, if you are an official that has been appointed by La Republique and you are currently serving in the Southern Cameroon territory, we are asking you vacate the territory once more for the last time. If you are a La Republique and that you have been appointed by La Republique and you are currently serving there in whatever capacity, we are giving you one more time, vacate the territory, because we're going to come after you. And if you are a soldier, if you are a police officer, if you are serving in La Republique and you are currently in the Southern Cameroon territory, we are asking you one more time, vacate La Republique and come home. Protect the home you once called is a home. Because we have got enough of La Republique. Our people cannot become the slaughter place. Our people cannot become the murdering place. Our people cannot become the bloodiest place. That the people cannot live in the home, the peaceful mind. But they will be ransacked and massacred because of La Republique. if you are a uniform officer and you are being employed by La Republique and you are serving in La Republique, we are asking you, return home and protect your home environment, because we are not going to destroy our home and build La Republique on the property that comes from the Southern Cameroon territory. We are making this clear. We are making this clear. If you are serving or you are appointed or you are a uniform officer and you've been sent by La Republique that to go and destroy your birthplace while La Republique stay and carry on the property to build La Republique, I am here to give you one more time, leave La Republique and return home, and we shall build our home. It becomes an admired place in the subsequent years to come. We cannot generate resources and build La Republique. We cannot generate resources and build La Republique, and yet our home is looking shabby. Charity begins at home. Charity does not begin by La Republique. Charity begins at home when your sovereign country is built and when you have an environment that you feel protected and you have a home that you one day stand up and say, I was born in the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. I was born in West Cameroon. I was born the Southern Cameroon, the territory that can be once more admired, and that you have an education system that can be compared with a Western society. We can no longer believe that we shall become the destructive force of La Republique. I know we have some distractors. As I'm speaking, I know we have some distractors. We are letting you know that those distractors, we are taking note of you. When they talk about the sovereignty, there is someone they call Frundi. I am here to let you know that your era is over and that the people is now the future to decide what is good for them, because your retirement is already gone. We don't count on Frundi as a leader of the Anglophone. As we stand for the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon, Frundi is no longer a member because his term has vanished, and the people must protect his sovereignty. And if Fundi chooses to become the president of La Republique, he can go and campaign in La Republique, because the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon is not negotiated by Frundi. Frundi is, if he chooses to go to La Republique, it's time to go to La Republique, because the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon shall never be manipulated by any individual or whoever. The people must stand, and the people must stand tall. The people must stand erect. The people must stand straight, and the people must stand firm, and the people must be very firm in their decision, and that the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon territory is no longer negotiable. Because if La Republique knew that an Anglophone is somebody or is some people they can talk of, then when the member of SDA Parliament was demonstrating in La Republique, that would have been a call for La Republique to say, oh, I need to talk to these people. I need to make some negotiation. I need to ask them, what does the people want? How can we work together? But yet, a steward prime minister, whoever his name is, if you have his name, just put his name down in one of the notes. This steward prime minister, Koya, whatever his name is, you cannot imagine that the parliament is sitting up and demonstrating against the injustice carried on by La Republique, and yet you carry on a stupid document and you are reading in the House of Parliament as a someone that is mentally challenged, just equally as Paul Biya, whose mental is challenging. He's mentally challenged. He lacked mental focus. But we will not ask such a person to be able to govern us, because we must have someone that is mentally capable to make sound judgment that we can be ever proud of, because we shall keep our mental people treated. People with mental problems shall be treated and shall have a research institution that be able to do research on people with mental institutions. And they shall be part of the system, and that they shall not be managed to take them and put to manage the society. People with a sound mind. When an Anglophone stood up and asking for their sovereignty, Frundi, whose mind or judgment is outdated, and those within him, but I am here to let you know that the people has risen, and they have risen above the level of Frundi. They have risen for a better future of the Southern Cameroon territory. They have risen to become a people that they will govern themselves, a people that the rest of the other world will reckon, say, yes, it is a sovereignty. People must rise, and they must stand tall. They must stand straight, and they must be firm, and they must be united, and they must stand and tell La Republic, your days has gone. Your days has gone. Your days are good gone. An Anglophone sovereignty is not negotiable. An Anglophone territory is not negotiable. We have asked the United Nations, because the United Nations is the architects of the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon territory. United Nations need to act now, act swift, and act fast. Release the document, because the people have got enough of La Republique. It's simple. If United Nations need me to facilitate the document to be sent to La Republique, that the people have chosen their destiny as a sovereign nation, and that they do not need La Republique. United Nations is physically here in the United States. United Nations is physically here in the United States. The land of justice, the land of free, the land where people value the justice system. The land where people recognize that when they step out in an environment where justice prevails over the wrong. United States government is not a mistaken government. The United States government is not a mistaken government. So I am speaking directly to the American people. I am speaking directly to the U.S. Congress. I am speaking directly to the U.S. government, that the Anglophone speaking territory, that the people of the great state of the United States voted in 1961, recognizing that the people of the Anglophone speaking as a sovereign nation. It is not time to manipulate. It is not time to negotiate. It's not time, because the people want their sovereignty. It's not by mistake that the United States government voted in 1961, recognizing that the people, the U.S. document clarified this. And we are asking the United States, ask United Nations. I am sending this message to the governor of New York. I am sending this message to the Attorney General of New York. I am sending this message to the great people of New York, that a sovereign nation that was voted in the United Nations here that the people are being undergoing destruction because of the evil force of La Republique, and yet the documents are hanging in the United Nations. Here in the great state of New York, I am calling on the Attorney General to ask the people of United Nations headquarters, because no person can function in the great state of the United States, can function in the United Nations, here in the great state of New York, and the evil people are being destroyed. Despite the fact that the people are genuine, they have a genuine document that allow them the sovereignty. I am asking the Attorney General of New York to call on the United Nations to release the document, because our mother back home are getting their food destroyed by the evil force of La Republique. Because when these people left Nigeria, Nigeria did not send a destructive force when they left and formed their own sovereign government. When the Southern Cameroon under John Funcha left Nigeria and formed their own government where they were elected and transparency, there was no Nigeria to send to fight against the Anglophone speaking. Therefore, La Republique has no power or legitimate right over when the Southern Cameroon declared its sovereignty and sent troops to destroy the people of great state of Banso, the people of great state of Manse, the people of great state of Manu, the people of great state of the Northwest, the people of the great state of Bafut, the people of the great state of Bali, and the entire Ngokutunja, and people of the great state of the Anglophone territory. The people have been destroyed by the evil force of La Republique, and yet we have the document that is languishing here in the United States. I am calling on the New York, the Attorney General of New York. I am calling the Governor of New York. I'm calling the Mayor of New York to ask the United Nations to release a document that allows the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon, because the people have risen. The people must stand for their sovereignty. France has chosen, rather than become a friendly environment of Africa, but has chosen a destructive force by propagating wrong information using their media as a means to destroy the Anglophone speaking territory, because they voted in 1961 against the recognition of the sovereign state of Southern Cameroon. But yet the people have risen, and now that they have risen, there is no turning back. They shall rise and be stand firm. And I'm asking every fellow Southern Cameroonian that our people cannot become a destructive land, and that our mother cannot become a destructive force, and that the evil force of La Republique, and that you must join us, and that we must stand tall, and we must stand firm. We must unite as one people of the Southern Cameroon, because we were born from the same womb, and our territory remains firm, and that we must come together as a one nation and tell La Republique that yeah, enough is enough. We don't need La Republique to determine what we have to do. And we are physically here in a great country like the United States that value democracy as a means to an end. But we cannot become a destructive force. We must stand together. We must unite as one. We must come together, and we must ask the United Nations that the sovereignty, the sovereign people of the Anglophones are now being carried more destructive force. It is time the United Nations releasing the document, because we've got enough of La Republique. The people cannot benefit from the investment, from the property they have, but yet their property are being mortgaged by France for their personal interest. And that is why they are sending all kinds of guns and munitions to fight the Anglophone speaking. I am here to bring this to the American people. If you are watching, you pick up a phone and call the Senate person. If you pick up a phone, call the Congress person. If you pick up a phone, call the great governor of New York. If you pick up a phone, call the mayor of New York. If you pick up a phone, tell the U.S. Congress. If you pick up the phone, tell the United States Senate that the people of the Anglophones are being carried on by the destructive force of La Republique. When mother goes to the harvesting, they have one season of harvesting in Southern Cameroon.
or West Cameroon or the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, they have one major season where crops are harvested and these crops are preserved for the next harvesting season. When La Republique sent the army of La Republique to go and destroy the crop, this property of food stuff, and destroy, take out food from the mother's preserved area and burn them out. It is the worst evil force that one can ever imagine for a government carry on this against its own citizens. These people of the Anglophone speaking are a sovereign nation. They don't deserve this worst behavior of La Republique. When they go and take this foodstuff, basic foodstuff, and burn them outside, and it is a nightmare. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. When mother, their foodstuff, that's what they use to feed their children. That's what they use to feed their children, for God's sake. When the destructive force of La Republique sending their soldier to go and destroy this basic foodstuff that the mom has been harvested, and yet now they have the next season that they don't have harvesting. The crop has been burned down, their home has been burned down, their investment has been burned down. Yet when the Southern Cameroon left Nigeria under the British administration, and they left to form their own sovereignty, Nigerian government did not send the troops of occupation to burn the property, but yet La Republique is carrying on destructive force. I am here to let America know that the destructive force of La Republique is now persisting, and that the people will rise and tell La Republique that the sovereign nation of the Southern Cameroon is no longer negotiable. If France is thinking of decentralization, I am telling France to carry on the decentralization in France, because it's no longer applicable on the Anglophone speaking territory. The Anglophones has risen and they must stand for their sovereignty. We are no longer the property that shall be converted to French property. I mean, imagine certain community in France, Switzerland and France, that they want a decentralization. We don't want decentralization. Does that make it clear? We are a sovereign nation. We have our government. Even if the government is locked up, we have another government we can form, and the people will continue to rise up and stand for the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon. There is no decentralization. There is no La Republique. La Republique has to leave, and our sovereignty must stand still. If you listen to this message, make a phone call to New York. Make a phone call to the U.S. Congress, because it is the Congress that make decision. Call the White House, because we no longer deserve this brutality against our mother, our children. We want a government that is accountable, a government that the people have the power to elect that government, and the people have the power to discard that government. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. And we are asking France one more time. Choose, organize. You cannot be maintaining democracy in your country and become a destructive force on the African continent. The 13th colony in Africa, there is none that can stand up proud of any investment that has carried on by France, except that it is a destructive force, except exploitative force. Africa cannot stand and proud. All the 13th colony, they are either fighting one civil war to the next. They are either fighting one war to the next. Remember the 1958 to 60s, when the French government carried on destructive and murdering of the people of the Prebublique, the people of the Bassas. Yet they don't remember that. And because of France, the Anglophone has become the next target. I am here to let France know you can stay with La République, but the Southern Cameroon territory must rise, and must rise now, stand firm that the people of Anglophone are no longer the colonial territory of La République. They have a sovereign nation. They must stand tall, they must stand firm and tell La République they should leave. And one more again, if you are a soldier, if you are a police officer, whatever capacity you're serving in La République, we are asking you, return. If you use English speaking as the mother of your tongue, and that's the language you were born, and that you were from the Southern Cameroon, you need to return home and protect your sovereignty, because La République will no longer be part of our territory. La République will not be part of our territory. You cannot imagine that when you call in a Umudok, when you call in Manfe, when you call in Boya, when you call in Bangen, you hear this person has been killed. You hear this person has been destroyed. You hear the home has been burned down. You hear this has been burned down. We here in the diaspora are the eyes of the people back home. We must stand and rise and protect the people back home, because we are the eyes of the people. We are the people's voice. We must unite firmly. We must stand against the destructive force. We must unite. We must stand firm, because we do not, then we become the destructive force. Because when you call home, your mother may not have nothing to eat, because we need to have a government that is accountable, a government that the people can elect, a government that is transparent, not a government of a personal property. When you have one single individual being in power for 35, 36 years, that is not the government we are accountable for. France doesn't have that form of government. France goes to the poll to elect their leader, but yet they are the destructive force of African descent, the African continent. Because African is voiceless. African, c'est le territoire du français. I am here to let France know that Africa no longer a territoire du français, it's an African territory. As France territory belongs to France. Africa cannot stand proud of its own currency. France has to come and mortgage the currency of the African descent. And yet, Africa doesn't determine the currency of France. The money value of France is not determined by any African continent, but it's France, is African continent that determines the value of African descent. Yet, because we have a certain individual that have been mortgaged to stand and as the liaison between France and Africa, I am here to let the world know that Africa is being destroyed by the evil force of France. If you are living in the diaspora, if you are a Southern Cameroon, if you speak the word that I speak, that is your mother tongue, and that is the language that you were a British colony, I am asking you to step and rethink, because La République is the destructive force in our land, because our people are being brutalized, our people are being murdered, because when the French institute their colony in Africa, they institute gendarmerie. Gendarmerie is a French force that is there to protect the French, the evil habit of France. Gendarmerie that you call the gendarmerie is a destructive force implanted by France to check Africa as a sovereignty. But I am here to let you know that Southern Cameroon shall never have a gendarme force. That shall be a Southern Cameroon police, and that shall be Southern Cameroon Department of Defense. That is the government that is accountable to his people and not the evil force. And once more again, I am asking you, if you are a senior divisional officer, if you are one of those appointed officials of La Republique, and you are currently serving in Southern Cameroon territory, I am asking you one more. Pack your luggage and off you go to La Republique. You can choose to stay and you discard your uniform, or you can choose to travel back to La Republique, where those orders will be respected, because my people do not respect those orders of the senior divisional officer of La Republique or the governor of La Republique. We want a government that the people are elected. When the people elect their government, they have the legal right to vote those government out of office, and not an appointed officials that would dictate what the people want. The people must stand and elect their leaders. And that is the government I will stand for. That's the government I am advocating. And that's the government I will empower for the Southern Cameroon territory. Imagine our mother, their basic food crops, that they have planted. It's one harvest season in the entire year. And it's very, very important for these mothers, for these children, for these grandparents. Because when they plant these crops, they expect a yield, where when they harvest this crop, they use it to feed their children. That is the purpose, because they are local farmers. Some may be used for market, for sales, to buy things like basic commodity. They may use to sell in the local market, to buy their clothing, to buy salt, to buy palm oil that they will use for their children. When the evil force of La Republique are sending their army to destroy the basic property of this mother, and yet without any form of sympathy, it is very regretting. And yet we have the United Nations head office physically here in the United States that are keeping the document instead of releasing the document and tell La Republique that the people has risen, that the people want their sovereignty, they want to become an independent nation. They are independent nation. Their independence was granted. The fact that they are living together with you does not merit you to decide what they choose. They can at one day decide their destiny, as they have already done. They have risen and they have chosen their destiny. I am letting you to know this, that the people have risen, they have formed their nation, and that the government is Nigeria. Whether Nigeria choose to do whatever it chooses to, remember, another government can be formed and stand again and stand firm with the same aspiration. Because the people shall not be influenced by whatever La Republique. Neither the French media. The French media ought to stay in France and carry on its propaganda in France, not in the African continent. You can choose to become to Africa, be business partner of Africa, not at the destructive force of Africa. I know many of you are working in the system. I know many of you are working in the system. But I am here to let you know that the system has collapsed and that the sovereignty of the Southern Cameroon is no longer negotiable. The people, we are asking any evil force of La Republique that is currently in La Republique, we are asking you to pack your luggage and travel back. And all the army, whatever official position you are being held in La Republique, return home. Let's form a defense line and push La Republique out of our sovereign territory. Return home, let's form a defensive line and push La Republique out of our sovereign territory and will build our nation from scratch. We will make an education system that will be admired by the rest of the world. We will build a government system that is accountable. We will build a democracy that the rest of the world will admire. We will build an environment that we will be able to live in peace. And one day we shall thank God we made the right decision. When the United States government stood up against the British, they stood firm and they succeed and they told Britain, we are a sovereign nation. We no longer a colonial territory of Britain. And Britain acknowledged, and it is time, because many of you have studied in this advanced world and you understand the basic value of democracy, and yet you remain silent because you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to decide nothing. I am afraid of. I don't want to talk about it. I am protecting my people. I am here to let you know that we are the slave of our own home, but we must rise as one people and stand firm and tell the destructive force that we are a sovereign nation. Until we stood up as a defensive and mechanism and tell the Republic, enough is enough. You can't imagine the French government is sending drones to monitor the Anglophone speaking territory about La République, the destructive force, to send drones to monitor the Anglophone speaking as they fight for their sovereignty. And yet France is sending drones to monitor the Anglophone in their sovereignty. This is an Anglophone speaking land. It's not La République. It's a sovereignty. The people have the right to choose their destiny. France has nothing to do to send the drum to monitor the people. It's in their home. It's in their territory. It's in their land. They have the choice to decide who comes home. They have the right to open the door and decide who comes in. France has nothing to send drums for La République to go and monitor the people. La République has nothing to do with the Anglophone. It's a sovereign nation. The fact they choose that they should live together in a common bondage does not guarantee La République to decide what they want. I am here to bring this to the fellow American because it became a chronic. I am bringing this to the fellow American because the people have been destroyed. I am bringing this to the fellow American because it's not often spoken in the major media because they ignore it. But I am tagging the Facebook to bring this opportunity that we x-ray what is happening in the African descent territory. I am asking the US Congress. I'm asking the governor. I'm asking US Congress. I'm asking US Senate. I'm asking the governor in my great state of Texas. Please. My people have been going under persecutions. My people have been destroyed. At least 40,000 are languishing outside. Mothers are delivering children in forests and they bleed to death. When mother deliver their children and they bleed to death because of the evil force of La République, that is being implanted in our territory. When the people of France are sending drums to monitor the people of Southern Cameroon, the people that is a sovereign nation, when mother deliver the children in forest and bleed to death, and yet they have the document physically languishing in the great state of New York because the United Nations has failed to act. I am asking United Nations to tell La Republic that the people has risen. They have formed their government. They want their self-determination, and that the people do not want La Republic, and the people must stand firm and stand firm indeed. I want to take a moment to thank you, and I will continue bringing you as the news arises. Thank you and have a great day.